October 11th of the Israeli and the Palestinian territories map, also known as the Gaza-Israel War. Juzzy here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and practical approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in this region. So starting out on the map today, as the Israeli Iron Dome air defense system was intercepting multiple rockets in various regions in the last day, including at Ashkelon, which is just beyond the border with the Gaza Strip. But also, one rocket landed in Jaffa city near Tel Aviv in central Israel. There was also 4 direct hits to buildings in the Israeli town of Sderot, which is in fact not far from the border with Gaza there as well. And next, take a look at this video from within Gaza itself. Now, at first glance, it may appear to be an Israeli airstrike into the Gaza city, but on closer inspection, you may notice that it is actually something much more sinister, as it is rockets firing from civilian centers within the Gaza Strip for targeting Israel with. Which means the governing Hamas body of the region is effectively using their own citizens as a shield to deter retaliatory attacks from Israel. Now, in some of the aftermath from the recent events at the beginning of the war on Saturday morning, pamphlets on Israeli weapon systems were found on the bodies of Hamas militants, which turned out to be literally a guide on how to attack the Israeli Merkava tanks, that's on the top right, and how to avoid fire from various other Israeli weapon systems. Really, a pamphlet designed to invade Israel. Then, moving on, as close to the border with Israel, or on the Israeli side, I should say, Major General Veruv was speaking with journalists, flat out stating that what they're witnessing in the area has been as a result of not some battlefield engagements, but rather a full-on massacre. And we're starting to oddly see Hamas take different stances on the events that unfolded in recent days, as in this Sky News interview with a Hamas spokesperson, where he stated that Hamas did not kill any civilians and that it's all Israeli propaganda fakes. And the mental gymnastics of these types of statements are truly mind-boggling, given the overwhelming body of evidence we have seen since the initial events last Saturday morning, and add to that the footage provided from both sides, mind you, putting on full display the Hamas militants' savagery on the Israeli civilians in the region. Which is odd, given that other Hamas officials have proudly spoken and supported the acts that occurred by their militant forces in the recent days. So there is certainly a very confusing narrative for Hamas officials that appears extremely inconsistent. And so, anyway, at some point the interviewer just hangs his head in shame for the blatant line he's hearing, as the spokesman continues to deny the sheer brutality of events on Israeli civilians that had just occurred. Then we move to the continued operations of the IDF, so the Israeli Defense Forces, and their response, with this photo here showing smoke rising after a strike was performed west of Gaza City itself just a short while ago. Also, the Israeli Navy is striking coastal targets near Rafah now as well there. In fact, the Israeli army said today that on Monday, for the first time since 2006, it used the M270 MLRS system to target Hamas sites along the Gaza Strip, which is a platform that roughly equates to a less mobile version of its relative, the HIMARS platform. Then also, the Israeli army stated that it performed strikes on Hamas tunnels that were used to smuggle weapons and equipment into Gaza, with these strikes reportedly happening very near to the border between Egypt and Gaza itself. Then to the north, as there's been some continued engagements with several border skirmishes on that front, as initially there was incoming rocket sirens in northern Israel. There was also the destruction of a Israeli M113 armored personnel carrier from a Cornet ATGM by the Hezbollah fighters on the Lebanese-Israel border, just on the Lebanese side. With that footage being recorded and uploaded from the Hezbollah fighters themselves. Now, the United Nations peacekeeping forces increased their patrols along the Lebanese border, although it's unclear at all if they can work towards their duty of ceasing or halting the hostilities at the contentious border location. Then I'll head across to some news for a quick moment, as the EU had initially advised recently that it would look to stop sending its annual 700 million euros or so of aid funds to Gaza, but then later updated its stance to advise that it will not suspend these development aid payments, but rather now review payments to ensure that they are not being misused, for instance, to fund the Hamas group of Gaza. Then, as for some Hamas-produced news updates, they actually stated that they will continue to fire rockets or missiles at Ashkelon until its residents are displaced. Then it will move to strike another city in Israel if Israel does not stop its policy of displacing civilians, which is referring to the broader, complex, and multifaceted long history of the Israeli Palestinian disputes, specifically in the West Bank region. So right along there, east to Israel itself. But back to the original statement of firing at one city at a time tends to suggest, at least to me, a limited military arsenal or sustainment capability or portfolio of rockets and missiles in their hands to utilize in this war in any significant and ongoing volumes. But still, it's too early to get a completely accurate picture of how the situation will unfold. But on that topic, the Gaza Strip is certainly a small territory that effectively has to smuggle in its weaponry and munitions because, take for instance, your more conventional military methodologies of receiving in weapons in large volumes, either through road, rail, air, or even through industrial capacity outputs. These are all effectively logistical military traits that the Gaza Strip has extremely limited access to, if at all in some cases. So it's very much expected that this warfare asymmetry, if you will continue to be more and more pronounced sooner and sooner than any other traditional conflicts or wars that you see. But that's it for today, guys. Just a super quick video. Thanks for watching. Please leave a comment and like if you want to. And yeah, I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers.